When single father Michael Torres saw the woman standing on the bridge at midnight, he never imagined that saving her life would change everything. His desperate words, "You matter," pulled her back from the edge. But when his 6-year-old son whispered, "Daddy, why does the sad lady have the same necklace as Mommy in the picture?" Michael discovered the woman he rescued was secretly someone who would shatter everything he thought he knew about his past.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you.
Michael Torres sat in his car outside the Grief Counseling Center, hands gripping the steering wheel. 3 years since the accident, and he still couldn't bring himself to walk through those doors. His phone buzzed. Another missed call from his therapist, Dr. Harrison. The concerned voicemails were piling up, each one more urgent than the last. At 34, Michael had built his life around routine and control. Morning coffee at exactly 6 a.m., drop 6-year-old Ganny at school by 7:30, manage his struggling construction business until 3, pickup, dinner, bedtime stories, repeat. No deviations, no surprises, no room for the grief that still clawed at him in quiet moments. Danny's teacher, Mrs. Peterson, had been leaving increasingly worried messages. His bright, energetic son was withdrawing, barely speaking in class, clinging to a worn photo of his mother during recess. The school counselor recommended family therapy, but Michael couldn't face sitting in a room talking about feelings he'd buried so deep. "Michael, your son drew this today," Mrs. Peterson had said during their last meeting, sliding a piece of construction paper across her desk. The crayon drawing showed 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, standing apart under a gray sky. No sun, no flowers, no smiles. Just emptiness. At the bottom, in careful 6-year-old handwriting, "Daddy sad." The image haunted him. He'd been so focused on maintaining their routine, keeping them financially afloat with his failing construction company, that he'd missed how his own emotional shutdown was affecting Danny. His son needed more than just a provider going through the motions. Dr. Harrison's latest message was different, more direct. "Michael, Danny needs to see you healing. The isolation isn't protecting either of you anymore. I've had 3 families ask about support group meetings. Sometimes connecting with others who understand makes all the difference." That evening, Michael found Danny coloring quietly at his small desk, the same worn photo of his mother propped against his pencil case. Sarah's smile seemed to watch over their son, a reminder of the warmth that once filled their home. Now the house felt hollow, too quiet, like they were both holding their breath waiting for life to begin again. Michael knelt beside his son's chair. "Hey, buddy, what are you drawing?" Danny showed him another picture, this time 3 figures under a bright sun. "Mommy, me, and you," he whispered, "but Mommy's far away." Something cracked open in Michael's chest. His son was trying to rebuild their family on paper because he couldn't do it in real life. Tomorrow, he decided, watching Danny carefully color inside the lines, tomorrow he would finally call Dr. Harrison back and take the first step toward healing, not just for himself, but for the little boy who still believed in sunshine. It was past midnight when Michael found himself driving through downtown Portland, unable to sleep after another nightmare about the accident. The city streets were empty except for occasional late-night workers and the glow of streetlights reflecting off wet pavement from the evening's rain. He'd taken these drives before when insomnia struck, finding strange comfort in the movement and solitude. As he approached the Morrison Bridge, something caught his eye. A figure stood alone at the pedestrian walkway, silhouetted against the bridge's lights. At first, he thought it might be someone enjoying the night view of the Willamette River, but something about the posture seemed wrong. Too still, too close to the edge. Michael slowed his truck and pulled over. Through his windshield, he could see it was a woman in her 30s with long dark hair, wearing a hospital scrub top and jeans. She stood motionless, hands gripping the railing, staring down at the black water below.
His heart raced as recognition hit him. He'd seen that same stance 3 years ago when grief had nearly consumed him after Sarah's death. The same hollow stillness, the same desperate calculation. Michael quietly got out of his truck, leaving the door open. "Hey," he called softly, not wanting to startle her. "Beautiful night, isn't it?" The woman didn't turn around, but her shoulders tensed slightly. "Please don't," she said quietly. "Just keep walking." "I can't do that," Michael replied, taking a careful step closer. "My name's Michael. What's yours?" "It doesn't matter," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Nothing matters anymore." Something in her tone made his chest tight with recognition. "I used to think that too. After my wife died, I stood on a bridge just like this one. Felt like the pain was too much to carry." She turned slightly, just enough for him to see her profile. Tears streaked down her cheeks, and something about her face seemed familiar, though he couldn't place where he might have seen her before. "But you know what stopped me?" Michael continued, moving slowly closer. "I realized someone needed me. My 6-year-old son. He'd already lost his mom. He couldn't lose his dad, too." "I don't have anyone," she sobbed. "I lost everything today. My job, my home, my reason for being here." Michael was close enough now to see her hands shaking on the railing. "You matter," he said firmly. "I don't even know your name, but you matter. Someone out there needs you, even if you can't see it right now. You don't understand. Then help me understand, but step back from there first. Please."
After 20 minutes of gentle conversation, the woman, who finally told him her name was Elena, stepped back from the railing. Michael drove her to an all-night diner, where she sat across from him in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. Her eyes were red from crying, but she seemed steadier now. "I was a pediatric nurse," Elena said quietly. 15 years at Children's Hospital. Today they told me I was being let go due to budget cuts. I came home to find an eviction notice on my door. My landlord sold the building." She laughed bitterly. 15 years of saving children's lives, and I couldn't even save my own situation." Michael studied her face in the diner's fluorescent light. Something about her still seemed familiar, but he pushed the feeling aside. "You said you don't have anyone, but 15 years of nursing. You must have touched hundreds of families." "That's just it," Elena whispered. "I gave everything to other people's children because I never had my own. No husband, no family. When you dedicate your life to healing others and suddenly that's gone..." She trailed off. The next morning, Michael faced a dilemma. His regular babysitter, Mrs. Chen, had called in sick, and he had an important meeting with potential investors for his struggling construction business. Elena had spent the night on his couch. He couldn't just leave her alone after what had happened. "I can watch him," Elena offered when she overheard his frantic phone calls. "I mean, if you trust me. I understand if you don't." Michael hesitated, then looked at Danny, who was eating cereal at the kitchen table, still quiet and withdrawn. "Okay, but just for a few hours." When Michael returned home 3 hours later, he heard something he hadn't heard in months. Danny's laughter. Real, joyful laughter echoing from the backyard. He quietly walked to the window and froze. Elena sat cross-legged on the grass while Danny ran circles around her, both of them giggling as they played some elaborate game involving stuffed animals in superhero voices. Danny's face was animated, alive in a way Michael hadn't seen since Sarah died. "And then Super Bunny saves the day!" Danny shouted, launching his stuffed rabbit into the air. "But wait," Elena said dramatically, "what about the magic dragon who needs help too?" Danny stopped running and looked at her seriously. "We save everyone. That's what heroes do." He plopped down next to Elena. "Are you staying for dinner? Daddy makes good grilled cheese, but he always burns the edges."
Elena glanced toward the house and spotted Michael watching from the window. "I don't know, sweetheart. That's up to your daddy." "Please," Danny asked, grabbing her hand. "You make the sad feelings go away."
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Elena had been staying in their guest room for 2 weeks, and the house felt different. Not just occupied, but alive again. She'd found a part-time job at a local clinic while searching for permanent nursing positions, insisting on contributing to groceries and utilities despite Michael's protests. What surprised Michael most was how naturally Elena fit into their routine. She helped Danny with homework at the kitchen table, her patience endless as she guided him through math problems. She cooked dinner while Michael worked late, leaving plates warming in the oven. Most remarkably, she'd gotten Danny talking again. "Elena, watch this!" Danny called from the living room, performing an elaborate dance move he apparently learned at school. She applauded enthusiastically, and Danny beamed with pride. "Mommy used to dance with me like this." Instead of the awkward silence that usually followed mentions of Sarah, Elena smiled gently. "She sounds like she was wonderful. Want to show me more moves she taught you?" Michael watched from the doorway as Danny demonstrated a simple waltz step, Elena following along gracefully. There was no awkwardness, no attempt to replace Sarah's memory. Elena simply honored it while creating new moments of joy. That evening, after Danny was asleep, Michael found Elena on the back porch, looking up at the stars. "Thank you," he said, settling into the chair beside her. "For what?" "For giving him his smile back. I'd forgotten what it looked like." Michael's voice was quiet. "I've been so focused on just surviving each day that I forgot we were supposed to be living." Elena was quiet for a long moment. "In the hospital, I saw families go through unimaginable loss. The ones who healed weren't the ones who forgot or moved on quickly. They were the ones who learned to carry their love forward instead of their pain. Is that what you're doing with us? Carrying love forward?" She looked at him, her dark eyes reflecting the porch light. "I think you saved more than my life that night, Michael. I'd lost my purpose, my reason for being. Taking care of people was all I knew how to do. You and Danny, you let me do that again." Michael reached over and took her hand. "Danny asked me today if you were staying forever." "What did you tell him?" "That I hope so." The words surprised him with their honesty. "Elena, I know this situation is complicated, and I don't want to pressure you, but having you here, it feels right, like puzzle pieces clicking into place." Elena squeezed his hand gently. "It feels right to me too, like I've been looking for home my whole life and finally found it." It happened on a rainy Sunday morning when Danny was at his friend's house for a sleepover. Michael and Elena sat in comfortable silence in the living room, her reading a medical journal while he reviewed construction blueprints. The quiet felt peaceful rather than empty for the first time in years. Elena closed her journal and looked at the framed photo of Sarah on the mantel. "Can I ask what happened to her?" Michael's hands stilled on his papers. He'd avoided this conversation with everyone, even Dr. Harrison. But something about Elena's gentle presence made the words feel possible. "Car accident," he said quietly. "She was coming home from her sister's birthday party. A drunk driver ran a red light." His voice cracked slightly. "Danny was only 3. He keeps asking when Mommy's coming home, and I didn't know how to tell him she never would." Elena moved to sit beside him on the couch. "I'm so sorry, Michael. That's an impossible burden to carry alone." "The worst part is the guilt," Michael continued, words tumbling out now. "We'd fought that morning about something stupid. I can't even remember what. She left angry, and those were the last words we ever spoke. I keep thinking if I'd gone with her, or if we hadn't fought." "You can't blame yourself for someone else's choice to drink and drive," Elena said softly. Michael looked at her. Really looked. "What about you? You said you lost everything, but there's more to it, isn't there?"
Elena was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then she pulled something from her wallet, a small, worn hospital ID badge with her photo from years ago. She looked younger, hopeful. I used to work in the pediatric ICU at Children's Hospital. 3 months ago, we had a little girl come in, Sophia Martinez. She was 6, same age as Danny. Severe pneumonia, but treatable if caught early enough. Elena's voice grew thick with emotion. Her parents spoke limited English. The attending physician was rushed, dismissive. I tried to advocate for more aggressive treatment, but... She wiped away a tear. I was told to focus on my assigned patients. Sophia died 2 days later from complications that could have been prevented. Michael felt his chest tighten as he watched Elena struggle with the memory. I filed a formal complaint against the hospital's treatment protocols. They said I was being insubordinate, questioning medical authority. Within a week, I was terminated for attitude problems. The medical community is small. Word spread. No other hospital would hire me. Her voice broke. A little girl died because I wasn't brave enough to fight harder. And then I was too much of a coward to keep fighting when they silenced me. Elena, Michael said gently, taking her hand. You tried to save her. That matters. Does it? When she's still gone? Elena looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. That night on the bridge, I kept thinking about all the children I could have saved if I'd been stronger, braver. What was the point of my existence if I couldn't do the one thing I was meant to do? Michael pulled her into his arms as she sobbed against his chest. You're saving someone now. You're saving Danny. You're saving me.
It started with a phone call at 2:30 in the afternoon. Michael was at a construction site when his phone rang with Danny's school number. His heart immediately raced. The school never called during class hours unless something was wrong. Mr. Torres, this is Principal Williams at Riverside Elementary. Danny's had an accident during recess. We need you to come immediately. Michael dropped everything and raced to the school, calling Elena on the way. She was there before he arrived, having left work the moment she got his frantic message. They met in the parking lot and rushed inside together. Danny sat in the nurse's office, tears streaming down his face, his left arm cradled against his chest. It hurts, Daddy, he sobbed when he saw Michael. I fell off the monkey bars trying to show Tommy how brave I am. We think it might be broken, the nurse office explained. The ambulance is on its way. At the hospital, Danny clung to Elena while they waited for the X-ray results. Michael paced the small examination room, his hands shaking as memories of another hospital visit flooded back, the night they lost Sarah. Hey, Elena said softly, catching his arm as he passed. He's going to be okay. It's just a fracture. You don't know that, Michael snapped, his fear making him sharp. Things can go wrong. Complications happen. People don't come home. Elena's face went pale, but she didn't let go of Danny, who had finally dozed off against her shoulder despite the pain medication making him drowsy. When the doctor confirmed it was a simple fracture requiring a cast, Michael should have felt relief. Instead, he felt overwhelmed by how much Elena's presence had meant in that moment of crisis. She'd known exactly what to say to calm Danny, had handled the medical questions with professional competence, had been the steady anchor while Michael fell apart. That realization terrified him. Later that evening, after Danny was asleep with his new bright blue cast, Michael found Elena cleaning up dinner dishes in the kitchen. Thank you, he said quietly, for today, for everything. Elena turned, studying his face. You're scared. It wasn't a question. Michael nodded slowly. Danny's getting attached to you. Hell, I'm getting attached to you. What happens when you decide to leave? What happens when you find a real nursing job in another city? What happens when you realize that taking care of broken people isn't what you want for your life? Michael, Danny's already lost one mother. I can't let him go through that again. I can't go through that again. Elena set down the dish towel and faced him fully. So, what are you saying?
I'm saying maybe this was a mistake. Maybe you should find somewhere else to stay. Maybe we should end this before anyone gets hurt worse." The words hung in the air between them like a physical blow. Elena's face crumpled for just a moment before she composed herself. "If that's what you want," she said quietly, "it's not about what I want. It's about protecting Danny." Elena nodded slowly, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'll pack tonight."
Michael woke up the next morning to find Elena's room empty, the bed neatly made with a folded note on the pillow. His heart sank as he read her careful handwriting. "Thank you for saving my life and giving me a purpose again. Take care of that beautiful boy. E." Danny discovered her absence when he came downstairs for breakfast, his casted arm making simple tasks difficult. "Where's Elena?" he asked, looking around the kitchen. "She said she'd help me eat my cereal with one hand." Michael knelt beside his son's chair, his chest tight with guilt. "Elena had to go back to her own home, buddy." "But this is her home too," Danny said, his lower lip trembling. "She said it felt like home. Did I do something wrong? Is it because I got hurt?" "No, Danny, you didn't do anything wrong." "Then why did she leave without saying goodbye?" Tears began falling down Danny's cheeks. "Everyone leaves without saying goodbye." Michael felt like he'd been punched. His son was right. First, Sarah had left for what was supposed to be just an evening out, and now Elena had vanished from their lives just as suddenly. He'd created the exact scenario he'd been trying to protect Danny from. 3 days later, Michael was struggling to manage everything alone. Danny barely spoke, refused to eat more than a few bites at meals, and spent most of his time staring out the window as if waiting for Elena to return. He had to leave work early twice when the school called about Danny being inconsolable. On Thursday evening, Michael's phone rang. It was Dr. Harrison. "Michael, I got a very interesting call today from a nurse named Elena Rodriguez. She asked if I had any recommendations for grief counselors who work with children. She was particularly concerned about a 6-year-old boy who'd lost his mother and was now dealing with abandonment issues." Michael's heart stopped. "She called you?" "She did. She also told me about a father who was so afraid of losing someone again that he was pushing away the best thing that had happened to his family in years." Dr. Harrison's voice was gentle but firm. "Elena Rodriguez was the pediatric nurse who tried to save Sofia Martinez 3 months ago, the little girl who died at Children's Hospital." Michael sank into a chair, the pieces suddenly clicking together. "The same necklace," he whispered. "What?" "Danny said she had the same necklace as Sarah. Sarah wore a small silver cross. She got it from a patient's family who wanted to thank her for taking care of their grandmother." Michael's voice cracked. "Elena must have gotten hers from a family too." "Michael, Elena didn't just randomly end up on that bridge the night you found her. She was walking home from visiting Sofia Martinez's grave. It was the 3-month anniversary of the little girl's death. She goes there every week to leave flowers and apologize." Michael felt the room spinning around him. "I have to find her. She's staying at the Riverside Extended Stay Hotel on MLK Boulevard, room 237. She's been there since she left your house." Dr. Harrison paused. "Michael, that woman loves you and Danny. She's not going anywhere unless you keep pushing her away." Michael grabbed his keys, his heart pounding. He'd been so terrified of losing someone that he'd thrown away the person who could make them whole again. Michael stood outside room 237 at the Riverside Extended Stay Hotel, his hand raised to knock but frozen in place. Through the thin walls, he could hear the muffled sound of crying. His heart broke knowing Elena was in there, alone and in pain because of his cowardice. When he finally knocked, the crying stopped abruptly. Footsteps approached the door, then silence. "Elena, it's Michael. Please, I need to talk to you." "There's nothing to talk about." Her voice came through the door, thick with tears. "You were right. Danny doesn't need another person who might leave. I was wrong. I was scared and I was wrong. Michael pressed his forehead against the door. "Danny's been asking for you every day. He won't eat, won't sleep properly. He thinks he did something to make you go away." The door opened slowly. Elena stood there in sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She looked smaller somehow, defeated in a way that reminded him of how she'd looked on the bridge that first night. "How did you find me?" she asked quietly. "Dr. Harrison. Elena, he told me about Sofia Martinez, about why you were at the bridge that night." Michael stepped closer, his voice gentle. "You were visiting her grave, weren't you?" Elena's composure crumbled. "It was 3 months exactly. I go every week, but that night," she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, "her parents were there. They saw me and started crying, asking me why I didn't do more to save her. They blame me as much as I blame myself. Elena, no, they're right. I should have fought harder, should have demanded they listen to me. Instead, I followed protocol and a little girl died. Then when you and Danny needed me to stay and fight for our family, I ran away again. I'm a coward, Michael. I always run when things get difficult." Michael reached out and gently took her hands. "You're not a coward. You stood up to an entire hospital administration. You've been carrying guilt that isn't yours to carry. And you didn't run from us. I pushed you away because I was the one who was scared. You were protecting Danny. No, I was protecting myself. Danny asked me something yesterday that broke my heart. He said, 'Daddy, why do all the people we love go away?' Elena, he doesn't just miss you, he loves you. And so do I." Elena looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, what if I'm not strong enough? What if I let you both down again? Then we'll figure it out together. That's what families do." He cupped her face gently. "Elena, I've been dead inside for 3 years. You brought me back to life. You brought Danny back to life. We're not the same people we were before you came into our lives. But what if we stop asking what if and start asking what now? What now is that Danny is downstairs in my trunk hoping his Elena will come home with us. What now is that I'm standing here telling you that I love you and I want you in our lives permanently, not as a guest, not as temporary help, but as family." Elena stared at him for a long moment, searching his face. "Danny's really downstairs?" Michael nodded. "He insisted on coming. He made you a get-well card for your sad heart." Through her tears, Elena smiled for the first time in days. "His sad heart or my sad heart?" "Both, I think." Elena followed Michael down to the parking lot, her heart pounding with each step. When she saw Danny's face pressed against the truck window, his eyes lighting up the moment he spotted her, she nearly broke down crying again. "Elena!" Danny called out as Michael opened the truck door. Despite his cast, Danny scrambled out and ran to her, wrapping his good arm around her waist. "I knew you'd come back. Daddy said you might not, but I knew." Elena knelt down to his level, fighting back tears. "I'm so sorry I left without saying goodbye, sweetheart. That wasn't fair to you." Danny pulled back and looked at her seriously with his 6-year-old wisdom. "It's okay. Sometimes people need to go away to figure out how to stay." He reached into his pocket with his good hand and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I made this for you." Elena unfolded the crayon drawing. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. A tall man, a woman with long dark hair, and a small boy with a blue arm. At the bottom, in Danny's careful handwriting, it read, "My family. Elena, Daddy, and me. Even when we're sad, we love each other." "Danny," Elena whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "This is beautiful." "Do you see what I see?" Danny asked, pointing at the drawing. "We're still holding hands, even though I have a broken arm and you have a sad heart, and Daddy has scared eyes. That's what families do." Elena looked up at Michael, who was watching them with wonder in his expression. When did he get so wise?
I think he's been wise all along. I just wasn't listening. During the drive home, Danny chattered excitedly from the back seat about everything Elena had missed. How his cast made him feel like a superhero, how his teacher let him be the special helper because of his arm, and how he'd been practicing writing with his right hand so he could make her more pictures. And guess what, Elena? Mrs. Peterson said when my cast comes off, I can bring you to show and tell to talk about being a nurse. Will you come? Of course I will, Elena said, turning back to smile at him. Good, because I already told everyone my Elena saves people for a job, just like how she saved me and Daddy from being sad all the time. Elena felt her throat tighten with emotion. She caught Michael's eye and saw the same overwhelming love reflected there. When they pulled into the driveway, Danny immediately ran inside to show Elena everything she had missed. Look, I kept your coffee mug right here on the counter so it wouldn't get lonely, and I didn't let Daddy wash your favorite blanket because it still smells like you. That evening, after Danny had fallen asleep between them on the couch during movie night, Elena and Michael sat in comfortable silence. Danny's head rested on Elena's lap while his feet were stretched across Michael's legs. You know what I realized while you were gone? What? I spent 3 years being afraid of losing someone again, that I forgot how to love someone completely. But Danny never forgot. He loved you from the first day, no conditions, no fear. He just loved. Michael reached over and took Elena's hand. I want to love like that again. I want to love you like that. Elena squeezed his hand. I realized something too. I spent so long feeling like I'd failed Sophia that I forgot about all the children I did save, all the families I helped heal. But loving you and Danny doesn't erase Sophia's memory, it honors it. Every day I get to take care of Danny is another day I'm doing what I was meant to do. Stay forever? Michael asked, echoing Danny's words from weeks ago. Forever, Elena whispered back.
6 months later, Elena stood in the children's wing of Portland General Hospital, her new nurse practitioner badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. After months of advocacy and legal support, she'd been cleared of all charges and hired as the head of pediatric patient advocacy, a position created specifically for her. Elena! Danny's voice echoed down the hallway as he ran toward her, his cast long gone and his arm completely healed. Michael followed close behind, carrying a small velvet box. They planned this moment carefully. Danny had insisted it happen at Elena's new workplace, where she was saving children again, where she belonged. Elena, Danny said formally, straightening his tiny tie, Daddy has something to ask you, but first I have something to give you. He pulled out a handmade card with 3 figures drawn in crayon, but this time the woman figure wore a white dress and a crown. Will you marry us and be my real mommy? Elena knelt down, tears already forming. Danny, nothing would make me happier. Michael stepped forward, his voice thick with emotion. Elena Rodriguez, you saved my life on a bridge 6 months ago, but you've been saving us every day since. You brought laughter back to our home, hope back to our hearts, and showed us what real family looks like. He opened the velvet box, revealing a simple silver ring with 3 small diamonds. The jeweler said 3 stones represent past, present, and future, but I told him ours represents something else. Danny, you, and me. Will you marry us? Elena nodded through happy tears. Yes. Yes to both of you. As Michael slipped the ring onto her finger, Danny cheered and hugged them both. Around them, hospital staff who had gathered to watch applauded warmly. That evening, they visited Sofia Martinez's grave together. Elena placed fresh flowers by the headstone, while Danny left a drawing he'd made of an angel watching over children. I'm going to keep saving kids, Elena whispered to the gravestone, for you and for all of them. Michael took her hand, and Danny slipped between them as they walked back to their truck. The setting sun painted everything golden, and for the first time in years, the future felt bright with possibility. Some rescues happen in a single moment, on a bridge at midnight. Others happen slowly, day by day, as broken people learn to trust and love again. Both kinds matter. Both kinds save lives. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.